Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Stick Rock Golf Podcast. As always, I am Jack and I'm joined with my co-host Jake, as well as a special guest today. We're joined by John from golfperformance.osteo on Instagram, who is a Titleist Performance Institute certified coach, who's going to chat to us about everything TPI and what goes in all of those assessments. How are you doing, John?
Good, thanks guys. Thanks for having me on the podcast. Great to be here.
Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. Everyone knows a lot about us, but we wanted to learn maybe a little bit about yourself. So who are you? What do you do? And what's your background?
Okay, so I'm an osteopath. I've been practicing at uni for about 15 years. At my first practice, I got introduced to the game of golf by the old manager. Just took me out and played, and I was playing pretty early, I would say, and sort of cleared the bag a bit more at 17, 18 from there. Started playing seriously, probably just on around COVID or 2020. And I incorporated that with doing the TPI studies. So TPI sort of works in levels where you study the level 1, which is an assessment that you would learn if you're a fitness professional, an osteopath, or a health professional, or even a golf coach. And that was 2 levels that were brought together by the co-founders, Dave Phillips, who's known as John Rath's coach, and Brett Rose, who's a chiropractor who was sort of doing what I'm liking to do at the moment, working with golfers in his own practice. And they formed the TPI, which is trying to bring more of the body component and the athleticism to the golf game.
Yeah, awesome. Because I've learned a little bit about TPI and seen a touch of it on online from some of the creators that I like that have gone through it. But it's great to have you on to sort of go through it a little bit more in depth and find out some more information on how everything runs. So, I think firstly, I want to sort of go through what a TPI assessment is and what does it involve.
Perfect. So the very first TPI assessment, which is what all streams would use. So the streams are golf, so golf coaches, medical, people like myself, and fitness, so PT trainers. The level 1 assessment is basically looking at your body's combination of mobility and function. So there's several different ranges of motion and sort of personalized sort of strength tests that are used to assess how well you're likely to be able to swing the golf club. So, and the reason I did that was if your body can't do something and we're trying to coach you to do that thing, you're just going to struggle and struggle and struggle. So the idea was a combination of trying to prevent injuries by not doing the wrong things by our body, but also to the body swing connection is a term that's often used. That would be something like, well, usually rotate your hips more because you're getting too outside in with the golf club, but if that hip is stiff and doesn't rotate, you can trot that to the cows come home and you're not going to be able to succeed in your swing change or improving your golf. So you need to actually fix the hip first. And so that level 1 is really goes to the golf coaches to be able to talk to people like myself and say, we found these findings on a test and I was wondering if this is why they might be doing this in their golf swing or this is what they might be getting sore.
Yeah, so it's sort of like being able to find the limitations in someone's swing and then is it then catering or teaching them to swing around those limitations?
Well, it could be. So you've got to work out what level of issue you've got around the limitation. So your limitation could be very much a trigger, and in which case it's probably better to actually improve that because that's going to help you longer term and potentially help you swing the golf club better. Then we've got really popular examples where, for example, like John Rahm was born with an issue in his foot. So he's got a very, very limited range in his foot, and his swing is built around the limitations because that's with treatment and things, it's more maintaining the level he does has, which is not very good, and the rest of the swing happens.
Yeah, cool. Now, and you've mentioned some pretty big names like Ram and a lot of the content creators that we've seen, pretty good golfers, either on the amateur tour or the pro tour. Is the TPI assessment something that is more catered towards the better golfer, or is it sort of open to anyone?
It's absolutely open to anybody. I think in some ways it can be better, and there's a bigger platform for results for your, let's call it higher handicapper golfers or beginner golfers, amateurs.
Awesome. So you're saying you sort of see potentially a bigger benefit from beginner golfers or golfers with higher handicaps that would like if they would go and do a TPI assessment.
Yes, I would, and that's what I say benefit. It's because the difference between, most of the golfing clients I see, I do see tour players, but for every one tour player, there's a lot of club golfers there. A very typical situation would be that they spend all sort of week at work, hips can get tight, lower abs and things can get a little bit sort of inactive, so to speak, and then they go and play golf, and that could lead to either detrimental swing mechanics, making it harder to play because they're just stiff, maybe not sore, and or they've hurt, they're getting stiff, and now they're trying to swing a golf club, and then they're going to get sore. So,
Yeah.
a really popular example would be, if we sit all day for work, we'd get quite tight sort of in the middle part of our spine. And that's a super important part in terms of like rotating in the sweep. And if that was to start to stiffen, which is a really common thing I see in your sort of club golfers, then your lower back would potentially take on more of the sort of effort and load in a golf swing. We wouldn't necessarily feel that, and it's not necessarily even very visible by eye, but that's often where we start to get a really common injury in lower back pain when we're playing golf. And so someone might say, is it the golf that's a problem? And then you can say, well, golf might be the incident, but beforehand and what might have set that up is an issue there. And that's where with club golfers, we might be working with not only the ability to help them with a potential swing change, but also keeping them at a fit enough level to still play at the level they want to play at.
Yeah, awesome. In those sort of cases, then is strength training something you might look at for those people, or is it potentially like a flexibility training? What sort of training regime might someone that does sit in an office like all day, like myself, get out of like a TPI assessment?
That's a great question. And the obviously simple answer is both. And then your timing and what you want to do is obviously going to be dictating that as an individual if we discuss it. But from my end, I would say usually the lowest hanging fruit in terms of where you can get the quickest gains and the most improvement, let's say from a pain or a mobility perspective, would be the mobility work. So actually assessing how well you move. And so usually is what we start with. And the reason we do that is the brain is super complex, but it knows if something's stiff or sore or injured, and it just chooses the quickest pathway to do something. So it's kind of like, it's where you look when your foot is sore. You're like, I can't put pain on that, so I won't do it. So if you have a limitation in shoulder rotation or mid back, which is not painful, then you could be practicing your golf swing and be like, oh, I just need to come from the inside because I keep slicing. You might be really banging your head against a brick wall because you don't have the ability to get into them positions that would be favourable for you. So that's where the mobility would probably be first. But as an absolute optimization exercise, then it would 100% be both.
Yeah, sweet. That's good to know.
So how would a average smuck like us just rock up and get an assessment done?
Well, you can go to the TPI website, and they've got a find an expert page on there, which means you'd find somebody certified, and you can do that via location. So I also put a small amount of people, or plenty of people sort of find me via that. I tend to find more people are contacting me via Instagram, which is how I met you lads. You can find the actual certified professionals on their website for an actual TPI assessment.
Yeah, okay. And what would someone like myself or Jack expect to actually see out of it? Like if we were to, so like Jack's obviously in a seat all day, I'm standing all day. Like we're both, well, actually that's a subject to come for later. We're both around a very similar handicap player, and we've both got very similar goals coming through this year. What would be the sort of things that you would be looking with?
Question. I mean, because I see so many people, anecdotally in my head, I would guess the most common ones that I see came through. But one of the reasons the assessment exists is because we don't want to shoot. We just want to know, what is it about Jack? What is it about Jake? And if by chance they were the same, then sure, we would have very similar sort of protocols and diagnosis there. But if we found these subtle differences, it could be that one of you was working on back mobility and one of you was working on hip mobility, something like that. I think a very common one, especially for sitting, is we get quite tight in the hips, and often when we're sitting and our legs are folded, our lower abs tend to not fire as well or as smoothly. Now that's one of the key things in terms of playing good golf is the ability to actually be able to turn your hips irrespective of your upper body versus turning your upper body irrespective of your hips. That's called dissociation. That's one of the tests that we do. I would expect to find some issues there, and then it would be, you fellas are pretty young, aren't you?
Yeah, young
Yeah,
enough.
youngish, yeah.
Well, see, hip stiffness is a very common one. We were surprised we've got some muscular tightness in the front of your hips there, and that would potentially lift some of the movement through the pelvis. And so that would be likely where, so there's still a few things in the particular consult that would mean I would apply treatment to that to help loosen it off, give you exercises to maintain that, and sort of work towards a goal from there. And often I work very directly with coaches. So coaches will contact me and say, I found Jack is really struggling to do this when we're working on this in his lessons. I'm wondering if he's got an issue here, or here. Could you help it out? What's your call on that? And the team approach is very much what we try to model things off. So that would be, I might say something like, well, as it turns out, Jack's got a really bad hip injury there. At the moment, we're either looking down something else we realize, or we've got to wait until we fix this hip before we try to do the movement you're talking about. So that's where a coach and a player might decide if they're going to try to swing a certain way or be happy with a certain shape, these sorts of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like already from what you've said, I know that I do struggle with a bit of hip tightness, but that's also off the back of both Jake and I being pretty avid cyclists as well, which certainly can't help hip mobility with that exercise. Now, Jake, I know you've actually done a TPI assessment.
Somewhat of, yeah.
Do you remember what limitations they sort of found in your swing? And John, maybe you could give us a bit of insight on what that might cause, or what might be the fix for that for Jake.
So the main things that we really found, what I did was basically a come and try TPI thing. So the guys from the Good Joint put it on. We had about 10 people there. They basically walked us through the initial assessment, and we performed it on ourselves and to see where we were at. They didn't really give us much of this is how we're going to fix, because there's 10 of us there at once. But they did say hey, we can send you through a base program to see what type of things we would do. And you can work on that. And if you like it, come back, get an actual assessment done, go forward. The main thing that we found with me was more so, for those that haven't seen, I'm pretty tall, gangly. I'm not that tall, but I'm just really long in the limbs. So I have a very short torso, long limbs. Basically, I'm just super flexible. So with every single movement that they got us to do, I was, hey, touch your toes. Yep, easy. Hey, can you do this? Yep, easy. To the point with most of the things, I could actually get myself past where they needed me to be. And essentially what Anthony said was hey, you don't need to flex. You don't need to be that flexible, which is also something my golf coach works with me on, is that when in the back of my swing, I can get to, where we should be, and then path.
Keep going. Yep.
And I get a long way past, which has been something that's actually hampered me quite a lot, because once I get there, we lose control over the hands. They do whatever they want up there, come back through, and I can't square everything back up. So it was very interesting for me to be, I've come from a motorcycle and cyclist background where it's as flexible as you can be is the better, right? Because you can mold yourself to the situation. But then you come to golf and they're hey, you're too flexible.
I actually share with affliction a Jake, because I'm pretty bendy myself. And so given that I'm so invested in it professionally and personally, it's a bit of a working theory, which I'd like to chat with the names I was mentioning before kind of about this. And I think in some ways that's making it about harder, because if coaches look at these sort of stuff and they're ready to change things, it's there's nothing there's no position I can't get into, or yourself can't get into, with the flexibility. Now, in the actual TPI test, the question would be some of the stability tests. We'd be looking at, there's a couple of them where you're balancing, for example, and when you're doing a bridge, when you're lying on your back. And so we'd be looking to see if the stability married up with your mobility. And so the things like how well your core moved and your dissociation would be the ones that we'd look at mostly. And if that had an issue, then would be where your program would come in, and most likely would be like a similar strength, I would call it, or activation program where you're actually getting used to using the muscles in a very smooth way and getting them to activate, as opposed to, using a fine rocker on your mid back to get better flexibility through the spine.
Yeah, I know, having seen Jake's golf swing, I watched it for the last 2 years or so. He does have some strength issues in the core, as he does sway quite a lot over the ball, like through the swing, through his backswing.
Exactly. So that's that ability to keep your hips still and rotate your spine at the same time. And so that's really big with this. And generally speaking, it wouldn't surprise me, like you said, down probably less stable.
Yeah, yeah, and that's always been like a thing for me as well. Like, it's something that's starting to come more into the motocross scene as well, which is like that more stable position, which every coach that I see for motocross is always like, hey, we need to get you, like, it's really cool that you can get, like, because it's always been, being able to move yourself around on the bike. And now they're starting to get that more stable, like, if you know much about motocross, the Jet Lawrence sort of like very planted, very one position row body. And they try to get me into that position, and I'm like, I can't do that.
So you can't hold it.
Yeah, I can't hold it. Like,
That's certainly more and more strength based.
yeah, it's like I do have quite good core strength.
For you?
Sorry,
Do you go to the gym?
I do a bit. Yeah. Going back, I haven't been for most of the last half of last year, but I'm starting back this week. Actually, is when we started, so it's going to be an interesting one.
And that's where the assessment works really well, because it's like you got the TPI level 1 that's going to give us some indicators. Then I've actually done several of the TPI things as well, so it's kind of like we can then work out, is there an issue between kind of like your lower limb and your upper, like so lower limbs or legs and core and upper body as well, and start seeing if we're seeing too much of a discrepancy between the two. And that's where you could potentially focus it. When client comes into my office and they say they've already got a gym program, I just look at them, but I think we're going to need a few more things here to stack it with, which would be pertaining to either their injury and or the assessment we've done, and we sort of build up from there. And that's what I said before, like, when we used to do gym, it's like, well, we can get in there and we can have some mobility and some stability, and it's pretty rare that we don't have something that could potentially be better.
Yeah. Well, that's like I always from previously have been in the gym focusing on legs mainly. Yeah, if you can't tell, I'm no bodybuilder, but like we are mainly focusing on legs for like cycling, motocross. A lot's done through there. It's only recently that I've started with golf, that now I've sort of started to work a little bit more stuff into it. But yeah, it's been very tough to start trying to work other things when my whole body has been used to trying to do opposites. Yeah.
Every time someone comes in, they'll say something to me like, "Oh, why do you think my body's like this?" And without being silly, I always say something like, "Well, every little bit of information that's in your body up until we're coming to this today counts." So it's often it's like, it's not a trick, but as an osteopath, I'll sort of look at someone moving and see how well they're distributing their weight and balancing, and I might be like, problems with that knee. If you got a really bad, like, you had to have a reconstruction with your ACL or your ankle or something like that. It's actually really quite obvious to someone like myself, where you watch someone move and go, "We don't move that one as well. It's not as strong." You can see how you prefer to just use your levers on the other side. And also, that's not necessarily from the injury, it's also from the recovery. I had it myself where I spent 6 weeks not putting any weight through my left leg and putting it through my right. And even over that short period, it's like the left one gets weaker and weaker and weaker, the right one's doing all the work. Without being neuroscientists, said the body's just going, "Okay, this is how we do it." And we'll use that side mirror, and it's a little harder to use the other one. And when you have to actually get into the gym and understand the technique to make sure you reactivate and get that one to catch back up. Because if you just were to for example, try to squat with just a bar or 2 feet, be surprised that quick your body's like, yep, this is in the right side. It looks at them, but the actual force being produced will be more from that side. And so finding things like that help us feel, this might be why you struggle to get left in your golf swing, or this might be why you don't rotate through that particular hip. And then you start sort of investigating it that way.
Yeah, even without sort of having had these assessments or seen a physio or osteopath, I've certainly sort of seen that sort of stuff in my own swing through the years, going through injuries. Like I ruptured my ATFL in my ankle at one point, so I spent a few months healing from that while still trying to play golf, which was an interesting time. And then prior to that, had microfractures and bone bruising in one of my femurs.
Is that fair?
I used to play competitive netball like a lot, so big
It's nasty.
impact injuries. Yeah, it wasn't fun. So I spent another like 6 months recovering from that, which again, like without sort of knowing it, I certainly could feel it in the golf swing where the limitations were, where like, I wasn't transitioning through and putting weight on those joints as much as what I probably could have or should have.
Yeah, not to that. We use terms like healing. And so, we could do an MRI, for example, and see scar tissue and things formed, or even reconstructive surgery on the ATFL that you mentioned before. We don't get to, like, MRIs and these scans don't tell us what does that ankle do now compared to what it probably used to. And usually it doesn't bend like as well. And that's a big component of, flexibility and stability through that lower body.
Yeah. I also, like, for me, myself, like, I've only just been able to start, like, weighting the inside of my right foot through my swing, because so going back what is now about 6 years ago, when I was racing downhill at a national level, I shattered the necrotalus in about 12 places. Yeah, it was a good one. And like, obviously for that was like 18 months worth of recovery, 18 months, which turned into essentially up until now, really, that I still can't put full weight through it without pain. So I'm like, every golf coach I've ever spoken with has always been like, oh, you need to be like, turning through that inside arch of that foot.
He both right-handed golfers?
No, actually, I'm lefty.
Lefty.
Yeah, I'm right-handed. Yeah.
And so it's your right thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, so now I've actually just been able to start doing it now without pain, actually in the last 3 days. So that.
And so I'd be surprised when you were saying your mobility was good. I'd be surprised if I tested that foot out if it was good after that sort of horrific accident.
Yeah, it's that foot is probably like the worst of my body. Like I definitely have like a lot of different injuries here and there, but like my mobility is probably is about 95% of what my left side would be. Yeah.
Okay, so you feel it's close to 100. Yeah. So you feel like you've recovered it. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's good. So you can go, if you're rotating into the back, so you feel like you can get, like, majority of your weight into that foot?
I can now, yes. Yeah. Like if you go back 6 months ago, absolutely not. Yeah.
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 And you be able to feel how that changes the whole dynamic of the way you swing the golf club. Like, without having this chat, it would be when that situation was apparent, you would have these golf tendencies like, why are you staying so stacked on your front foot?
Yeah.
Which can mean several different things in terms of misses and shot shape and, getting a proper turn and actually having some, tiny bit of shift towards the right side is going to change that up.
Yeah. But yeah, it like I said, it took so long to recover from that. And like, even now, like you said, like, yeah, I don't have 50-50 or 20-20 when it comes to, flexibility between the two or mobility between the two. But like, it is so much. Like if I go back 6 months ago, like I would say it would have been like 75% of where it is now. And it's really only having started playing golf that has actually made me realize how bad it was. Because before, like, it's very easy to, if you're riding a bike or, riding a motorbike or even just like walking, it's very easy for your body to just go, yeah, well, we can weight the left side here.
That's right. No, 100%. Yeah. I mean, and that's with the golf swing too. And the only difference is, like, with the golf swing, the outcomes are so much more, like, amplified.
Yes.
Like, for all of a sudden you shift, this much more of the hips in any direction, and something else doesn't compensate for it. When when you actuate that into the club head, that could boost the ball. Like, it could be a reflection area, or you could be, whereas now you're swaying in different directions. And so, we talk about even just 100 mile an hour club speed with driver. You can see how if you gets thrown out, your face gets left open and things like that, the outcomes are drastic. So all of a sudden we look at the minute parts of the way the body moves.
Yeah. In saying that, like what would be like the most common limiting factors that you see in people's swings?
I don't do overall swing analysis. I'm not a golf coach. So usually, so the way that I would integrate with a golf coach would be, and this is from knowing so many of them, so like, so an amateur comes in and says, I'm eating root slices. For the golfer, they're sort of kind of stabbing up, just drifting off to the right. They're losing a lot of distance and there's too much curvature of the ball. So generally speaking, that would mean the path of the club is outside to it. And usually what we find correlated to that is an inability to turn sort of deep enough into the backswing. And the two biggest areas of the body that sort of make the backswing turn are your limitings, your right hip and your mid back. So if I'm standing up here, and this is my right hip this way, if that's stuck and I can't get that around, I'm going to be in some trouble. The same as if I got my body this way and I can't get a pure turn like that, then that would do anything in terms of put the club head in a situation where outwards have to rule out, and the next thing you know, you're cutting across the ball or you're hitting straight pulls to the left. And so the swing direction, so this is where it's not always as simple as that, because people, athletes out there learn to hit square at the club face even with pretty horrific kind of mobility sometimes, and other athletes out there who move very well still struggle with the coordination. If you can't move a certain way, you can't do the swing. Moving a certain way doesn't guarantee you the swing. Does that make sense? So even though in a situation where it's also this, because I'm always demoing it with the clients that come in, and like, how do you move it? I'm trying to move pretty well. And I'm like, yeah, it's a coordination issue. I can't swerve club face up, so I struggle playing golf.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And what would be the most surprising thing that you found that limits golfers?
Yeah, so like something that you, like the average punter might not always think of that they do or they come across in their daily lives, that might actually be limiting their golf swing through limitations in their own body.
Yeah, so I think the two biggest, I don't say as far as me because I study this stuff and have been for ages, like for golfers, wrist and neck. So if your wrist is injured or so, you can't release the club head and get any speed into the club. They will take you out of the game, and the neck can do that too. And people often say the neck's not involved. So it's kind of a weird demo. If I'm staying looking down this way, and I'm looking at the ball, for example, and I've done that, if I stand up here, my neck's actually rotated. So you're not turning your neck because it stays fixed, but it's essentially having to turn because you're underneath, from your neck down, you're rotating. As opposed to if we're sitting here doing this, just turn your head left to right, it's essentially doing that in the golf swing. It's kind of like, if you think about the backswing and the forward swing, your neck kind of does this. And so if you've got limitations over injuries, that's kind of, you're going to wonder why you're sore and sort of think, it's just my neck. But it's, that's probably where people are like, I didn't think my neck would be too much involved. And yeah.
Yeah, and off the back of that, I suppose, what the, best piece of advice you could give someone, like, say again, your average punter, what's the best thing that they could be doing in their daily life that might help them the most within the swing or within their physical fitness as well?
I often categorize the people that are working that are sedentary. And if you're sitting down, that's we're in no way designed to just be sitting down all day. And so it's probably the easiest thing to do, but it only works when you've made it a habit. And that would be very frequent times getting up from your desk and, sort of moving. Now, if you know which areas to stretch and you have some direct exercise, even. But literally, if you take your body out of seated where your hips are flexed, so that makes your hip flexors turned up, your glutes are going to turn off. They're the king of the golf swing. That's literally what fires your hips. If they're sitting down, they're basically just turning to jelly because they're not required. every 20 minutes to half an hour, if you're standing up and just re-engaging some of their muscles and you're potentially doing a few little warm-ups or just staying mobile and not letting that 3-4 hours always accumulate where things get tight or stiff or even inactive, then that would be the biggest bang for buck advice I can give, which it's also hard for us to do because as soon as you're in the zone, you got to start your work and 5 hours goes past and you're like, oh, geez, you get up and you feel stiff and sore in the back.
Yeah, I definitely get it. Having only moved into an office role in the last 6 months or so, going from standing up all day to sitting down, I think the hardest thing about transitioning to the office role was the toll it was taking on my body. And it wasn't something that I necessarily thought was going to happen, like when I moved into the office, but I definitely noticed it for at least the first 2 months where, again, you say I'd be sitting down for 5 hours. I'm not even got up because I, head deep in work and then felt, oh, my hips are really sore or my lower back's like having an out for me, even like down to the backs of my quads as well. I was starting to feel some pain like through them after having sat down for like way too long.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We're designed to be moving to some degree, most of the day while we're being active. And anything that's not moving starts to sort of stiffen and tighten and weaken and all these things. And that's actually like even before my growth clients, like a lot of the discussions I'd have on a Monday morning with a new client is like, oh, I've hurt my back. It was from the gardening on the weekend. I'd be like, well, it's very unlikely that you did anything in the garden that was like horrendously poor ergonomically. I think what we might have found was it's like all week we've been turning off the core, stiffening up through the hips. And so now when you're bending forward to go and pull a weed out or, trim the hedges or something, your brain's like, oh, you're asking me to do a task. The hips aren't there to help, or the core isn't there to help, and your lower back's just doing all the work. And it's that same old thing where someone says, oh, it was just some movement in it. What I mean? I was like, it's, definitely from the time, and it definitely is the bit that, hurts your back. But from a causal perspective, it's, if your body was in better condition, you very unlikely wouldn't have had that sort of happen during the weekend gardening or something like that. Or for the weekend golfer, where it's like, oh, yeah, you got to the second hole and something went on me or something like that.
Yeah, like I suppose that's like genuinely good advice just in general is getting up and moving as much as you can in those sedentary roles or trying to avoid that bit of a sedentary lifestyle.
I've done it for online consulting as well in terms of, even just by a meeting like this one or a Zoom, like if you can assess my ability well enough to be able to say, okay, your biggest sort of bang for buck or where you're going to get good results is if we target here, once we know what your limitations are. So that's what else on offer with certain TPI professionals and this with myself as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We could do it with you guys and do another pod at some point. We can have a chat about it all.
Yeah, and like actually that'd be something that we would probably be interested in, just
Sure.
sort of seeing the differences between Jake and I in terms of like physical fitness. Like I'm a little bit shorter than Jake is, but a lot stockier. So I struggle a lot more with flexibility. Like I struggle to even touch my toes on the best of days, let alone like easily.
Okay, you touch each other pretty easy, Joe?
Yeah. Yeah, we get there pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, just sample that. That's often sort of tightness behind your legs if you try to touch your toe.
Yeah, drastic. Like my hamstrings are very, very tight. Like the physical fitness is there and the strength is there. I've just got zero flexibility in a lot of my lower body.
Do you know what the extension is in the golf suite?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that you?
Yeah.
No, it isn't. Okay,
No, I don't actually struggle with L extension, funny enough.
it's covered with hamstrings and particularly that one particular test. But yeah,
For the most part, I get a little trapped in the downswing, but I am working through that.
okay, good. How's the golf going for you guys?
Well, actually, it's been a lot better in the last like 8 weeks than it has the entirety of like last year. But we're trending the right direction.
I was listening to that pod we were comparing handicaps just the other day.
Yeah. So we have actually had an update recently as well, which we were going to cover at another point. But I've had a couple of really good rounds come in and it knocked 3 shots off mine, so I'm down to a 15 now.
Three shots off. Did you have for like a 43 pointer or something?
Yeah, a 46 pointer.
Effectively, yeah.
Yeah. I got a 46 pointer. I shot a 9.4 differential, an 81, just off the back of a bit of training and a bit of like course management that like everything started to click, and
Very nice.
clearly it's working. Sorry?
Course management, did you say?
Yeah, a bit of course management.
What, did you study anything in particular?
I'd not like study anything, but like implementing a lot of the principles of decade golf and strokes gained analysis and putting myself in positions that actually make sense.
Yeah, I've done a decade before. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like where Jake and I have spoken about it like a lot previously, and like the mental side of golf is just as important as the physical side of things. Like my swing technically is quite good. Probably got the best swing in terms of technique out of any 15 handicapper in the country, but my mental on the golf course isn't always the best. So I quite often make poor decisions in terms of club selection or direction or how aggressive I need to get. So I've made a commitment this year in order to reassess a lot of those things in my game and get myself in a better position or give myself the greatest chance to score better.
Yeah. And then for me, like I've just been playing pretty average golf, but like in my last 8 scores, I've got five of those scores are counting towards my handicap. So like I'm playing.
But you're on the right track.
Yeah.
You
It's
said
like
really had some golf around.
so I'm coming down for a work trip. There may be some golf while I'm there, but so I'm going to be in Melbourne for 3 days and then Adelaide for the rest of it.
Okay.
But we Jack and I have been talking about Melbourne. It is a possibility on the list, but it may be a little while down the track.
That sounds like fun. Good work.
So how about yourself? How's your golf game been recently?
I was the constant battle. Well, I'm not going to land at a 9 handicap these days, and I've got the potential of shooting in the low 70s and somehow find a randomly float or put one in the water or something like that pretty often. Just it's a pretty constant sort of battle to get lessons. Working on some things at the moment. As we were sort of talking about before, it's sort of honing in even a bit with myself personally, where it's definitely more of the core reactivation in my swing that is likely to be letting me down. I put myself in the wrong positions almost more because I'm trying to make the golf swing simpler and easier, and it's kind of like I just have to let it happen a little bit more sort of fluidly, so to speak. So trying to get them hips activating a little bit better is hopefully going to get me in a better position and hit some better tee shots and not lose them all the time.
Yeah, well, that is somewhat how my round on Monday went. I lost 3 balls on the day with 0 balls in hazard, 3 of them in other fairways that we could not find. Needless to say, that driver we're back on the Callaway driver, Jack. The Cobra's gone.
Yeah, Jake's a bit of a head case when it comes to equipment. I swear he's changing loft and lies and settings every second day.
Can't do it. Like, I love it. I'm really interested in everything, but I also know my own personality where it's like, I take choices out of the equation. It's like, no, there's one buffer, so I don't have to sort of, and to be fair, today was all about, I played this morning, I was like, there was cloud rep over the hole, and I can't believe it. Nothing went in. Couldn't sync them up. Like, the only time they were in was when they were within 3 feet. It cost me heaps today.
Yeah, we certainly all have those rounds.
Yeah.
Sort of appears out of nowhere as well. Like you've been putting great all week, and then all of a sudden you just get on the course and you can't sink anything.
Well, the hole was tiny, but yeah, that's always frustrating, especially because it was accompanied by some okay approach work.
Yeah.
I know.
You guys do your own stats as well? Much of that yet?
Yeah.
What's the easy way to put it?
Again, like use Golf Shot or Golf Metrics to do the mapping. So Golf Shot mostly for GPS, and then Golf Metrics for as much as I can for strokes gain analysis.
And so if it was inland major batteries, which is your weakest link?
Approach play. So anything under 150 meters is awful. Driving, I'm about like just on a 2 or 3 handicap.
Fair.
Yeah, driving. So I'm hit it far. which helps. Usually, if it goes offline, it's really far offline, but I am swinging at a consistent sort of 110 mile an hour. Used to be up pushing 115, 116, but I've lost a bit of speed in the last 12 months in favor of accuracy.
Nice.
And then, approach play is always my worst, followed by chipping as the second worst there. So there's some things that I have made a commitment to sort of, again, focus consistently on this year as they're just, on by the wayside.
As for me, as much as I hate to admit it, currently my putting and my tee shots are what is getting me into trouble.
I'm the same as you right now.
Yeah. It's I've worked a lot on my putting in the past. Could used to not be able to read a putt or like even get it to the hole. And then I went through probably 3 or 4 months of putting really, really well and being able to actually read it. And I was like, oh, I don't need to practice that anymore. And we're back there again. I can read the putts now, but I can't put them in the hole.
It's the thing is, I think that's just a grind. I'm still working on trying to enjoy practicing putting at a stage.
Yeah, there's no joy in it. It is very.
For the speed and my back out now should be, especially my home course. I don't have the breaks is pretty much now. If I get to read the green, I'm like, okay, should be okay here. But no, it does come up to bite you.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's certainly the hardest part of your game to sort of practice, being pretty mind-numbing, just sitting stand on the practice green, just putting away, where you could be hitting the long stuff and bombing drives as far as you can, or hitting greens on the simulators. Yeah, putting certainly is something that, again, I also need to practice, but it's going all right at the moment. But I know it's still somewhere that I definitely need to work on, particularly my distance. Like, I can read a green really well, but I'm often leaving it 6 to 8 foot short.
Yeah, that's going to result in plenty of 3 putts if you do that.
Yeah.
Now, in saying all this, Jack, you kind of let it slip a little early, but we do have an update on the handicap from last week's episode, which John wouldn't have actually even heard yet. But what is your current handicap after your round at Woodford last week?
Yeah, so after my round at Woodford last week, my handicap dropped from a 17.8 to a 15.1, and then it dropped again after I played at Caboolture a couple of days later on down to a 15.0, which is actually my lowest handicap I've ever held, which is awesome. So I'm down as low as I can physically get so far, and hopefully trending further downwards.
Have you played any rounds at 15 yet?
No. So Sunday will be the first round off 15 after having played off 18. So we're in for a big shock.
That's about to say I have 3 holes there where you only get 2 points for a par. Starts to become fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this Sunday's going to be very interesting, which does mean that you have started this season off with basically straight away a 2-shot lead.
Yeah, my goals of hitting 14.9 by August seem very close.
One good round.
Yeah, one good round. That's it. Hopefully we can get it together this weekend. Jake, what's your handicap down to now?
It is sitting stagnant at a 17.0 currently. So, went back up from 16 to 17 and basically sat.
There we go. No, you're playing this week as well, Jake. We're actually playing our club round at Virginia. So maybe in the same group, hopefully in the same group. But it'll be interesting to see how we both go, having both played that course fairly regularly.
I don't know what you're calling regularly. I've played it once.
I've sworn you played it more than that.
Yeah, only the one time, yeah.
No, I definitely go in with the advantage. I've played it like 10, 12 times.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Awesome. Well, much appreciated again, John, for joining us. You've been a really good insight into the world of TPI, as well as like everything to do with your job as an osteopath and the limitations and insight that you have into the human body and how it works and how it works in the golf swing. So really appreciate you coming on.
Great. Thanks for having me, guys. It was good to do it. We'll chat again at some point.
Absolutely. If you want to go ahead and plug yourself, what's your Instagram? Where do you work? Where can people find you?
It's performance.osteo is Instagram. That's where you'll find plenty of little tips and body type tests and movements that you can be doing. And our clinic is based in Melbourne, which is called the Corner Clinic. Corner Clinic Osteopathy is the name of that one. So you can find me in person. I do online consulting in terms of mobility programs and fitness programs as well, which we can organise. And reach out, send me a message if you're interested.
Awesome. Yeah, so we might look at having you back on to do a remote consultation with both Jake and I. And hopefully you can give us a little bit more insight into our limitations and where we might be able to improve. Yeah, so for everyone at home, thanks again for listening to another episode of the Stick Rock podcast. As always, I have been Jack. Co-host is Jake, and our special guest has been John. Thanks, guys. We'll see you all next time.